Tupac came to me and said, man, what they talking about? That girl love you. You need to marry her.
That's propaganda for the media, bruh. That's something that sounds good for the media. Wasn't you in fear for your life because you put your cover over your head with your in your hand because you wanted to, because you was riding on a plane with Pac, and if it was all that love, you wouldn't have to do that, right?
So normally I got 2 security with me that fly on a private plane where Suge got his homies, Pac got his security. We get to the private plane, Suge like, they can't go. We got a 5.5 hour flight. I ain't got no security. You ain't feeling me right now. So I sit down and I'm like, they still don't say nothing to me. I grab me a knife and a fork, get my blanket, 5.5 hours like this. Sit in the back of the plane, all the way in the back. I'm the last seat. So somebody gonna get if I'm gonna get somebody dying with me.
Could it be that the Dogfather's luck has finally run out? For years, Snoop Dogg has skated by on his street cred and easygoing charm. But could his reputation in the industry be crumbling for real this time?
Wasn't you in fear for your life because you put your cover over your head with your in your hand because you wanted to, because you was riding on a plane with Pac, and if it was all that love, you wouldn't have to do that, right?
Rumor has it he might have let a bit too much slip over the years, whether it was dropping hints about Tupac's death, casually mentioning his gang affiliations, or spinning tall tales about always saving the day.
My low black glasses on and ride like this the whole flight, hoping one of them come with me so I could stab out everybody on this mother. This is a 5.5 hour flight. Don't nobody say one word to me.
Snoop's a motherfucking lie. Look at him on the stage at the House of Blues. Look at him.
But lately it seems people are starting to push back. Take Daz, for instance. In a series of interviews, he's dished out some eyebrow-raising stories about what actually went down between Snoop and Tupac before the rapper's tragic death.
Dogg said, "We not going to Vegas. We gonna post." So, he called us to the house and was basically like, look, this is what we doing.
Despite Snoop's long-standing claims of friendship and loyalty, insiders have hinted that the two weren't even on good terms when Tupac passed, meaning Snoop may have been stretching the truth, if not outright rewriting history for years.
Not true, Snoop Doggy Doggy Dog. Snoop lying. That's what you should need to keep your name. Snoop lying, because you always lying.
And the thing is, this isn't a one-off. Snoop's reputation as a storyteller, or let's be real, a bit of a fibber, seems to have caught the attention of folks around him who aren't shy about calling him out. In fact, some of those tough-talking gangstas he used to name-drop, turns out they're not too thrilled with him either.
So they had a thing for a minute that the Crips put a rumor around that Snoop couldn't come to the hood no more.
They've been pretty vocal about Snoop embellishing his past, and some even claim he's made himself a bit of a punchline among the real street legends. So here's the big question. Is Snoop's charm enough to keep him afloat, or has the clock finally run out on his carefully crafted image? Let's dive in. So Snoop Dogg has definitely left his mark on the music world. He's been a massive figure in hip-hop and gangsta rap, shaping the genre with his laid-back flow and his larger-than-life personality. But lately some cracks are showing in that iconic image. And it's not just about the music anymore. People are starting to question whether all his stories about his time with Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls really hold up, or if they're just part of his own legend building, especially with the rumors going around.
Not true, Snoop Doggy Doggy Dog. Snoop lying. That's what you should need to keep your name. Snoop lying, because you always lying.
Take, for instance, one of Snoop's wildest tales about the days when Tupac was in prison, where he claimed that Pac was facing real danger and heavy trouble inside, and that it was he who convinced Suge Knight to step in and bail Tupac out to keep him safe.
Was Tupac having issues when he was in prison? Because I know Snoop, he always say that he was hearing bad things, so he told Suge Knight to get him out.
Well, as juicy as that sounds, Napoleon, a close friend from Tupac's Outlaws crew, is calling it out as pure fiction, saying Tupac was actually quite popular in prison, making friends and even snapping photos with people, far from the helpless situation Snoop described.
But that's a false narrative that I think Snoop was pushing. You know what I mean? Pac, for a fact, he wasn't really, he had a lot of, he used to send us pictures, and his pictures on the internet where he was taking pictures with New York dudes up in Clinton. The false narrative, I guess people, they like to say that so then they can vouch for some other rumors that's being spread about Pac to try to put dirt on his name. You know what I mean? So It wasn't a fact they was disliked, he was holding it down.
According to Napoleon, when they visited Tupac, he never once mentioned feeling unsafe, though of course he was eager to get out. Because let's face it, who wouldn't be? But it wasn't because of some dramatic request from Snoop to Suge.
We used to go visit him monthly, some of us weekly. I can't recall him saying anything where he felt like he was in danger. You know what I mean? Like, not one time. He wasn't like, hey, I'm good. Y'all just go do your thing and leave me alone. No, he wanted to come home, but he definitely wasn't having any issues.
And honestly, Snoop's tendency to spin a wild story doesn't seem to end there. Another tall tale that's getting a lot of side eyes is the one about the MTV Video Music Awards where, according to Snoop, there was a huge confrontation involving Tupac and Nas. Now, you've got to remember, mid-90s New York was like the Wild West for hip-hop, with Nas and Biggie in a face-off for King of New York, Jay-Z climbing the ranks, and Wu-Tang Clan shaking things up. So it was a scene already buzzing with tension. And when Pac entered the mix, it was like someone threw gasoline on a fire. Apparently, Pac thought the opening line of Nas's track, The Message, where Nas spits "Fake thug, no love, you get the slug, see before gusto," was a shot aimed directly at him. And suddenly, Nas found himself on the receiving end of Pac's wrath, along with Biggie, Puff Daddy, and the entire Bad Boy Records crew. And if that wasn't enough, Nas was also hanging with Mobb Deep, who had their own beef with Pac, which only added more fuel to the fire, creating this crazy web of rivalries that made it one of the wildest eras in hip-hop history. The tension between Tupac and Nas came to a head at the 1996 MTV Video Music Awards, where the two bumped into each other. Snoop Dogg later told a story about this encounter, claiming that Nas had rolled in with about 100 shooters from Queens who started to surround the Death Row crew. According to Snoop, Nas didn't want any trouble. Not because he couldn't handle it, but because he chose to keep the peace.
But Nas had 100 niggas with guns.
Right.
So listen to what I'm telling you.
Yeah.
By me saying he didn't want none didn't mean he didn't punk out.
Snoop's tale paints a vivid picture of Tupac going off on Nas, supposedly hurling insults, totally oblivious that Nas's crew had them completely surrounded and could have turned things ugly in a second. Now, Snoop makes it sound like Pac was acting like an unpredictable hothead, while Nas came across as this calm, cool leader in the face of all that chaos. But here's the kicker, Snoop wasn't even there when it supposedly went down. According to Napoleon, who was actually there with Pac, Snoop's story is way off the mark. Instead of this dramatic standoff, Napoleon says the two legends, Pac and Nas, were actually pretty respectful when they crossed paths. Pac didn't throw any insults like Snoop claimed. In fact, they cleared up the whole misunderstanding on the spot, and it was more of a respectful conversation than a heated exchange.
Pac wasn't disrespecting Nas at all. You know, I know Snoop said Pac punked Nas and then went to Snoop and said, you see how I got these New York dudes? None of that happened, bro. It was a mutual respect thing.
Pac even promised Nas that once he was back in LA, he'd make sure to take Nas's name off any diss tracks where it was mentioned. But of course, tragedy struck, and Pac never got that chance. To make things even more interesting, Napoleon doesn't even recall Snoop being present at this encounter.
And then Pac literally told him, he said, look, I got songs dissing you. When I go back to LA, I'm gonna remove every verse that I mentioned your name in. But Pac couldn't do it because he passed away. Yeah, definitely. I don't remember Snoop being there at all. Unless he was like in the cut somewhere, like, you know what I mean? When nobody saw him but him, but I don't remember him being there.
And Nas himself later confirmed that Snoop got the story completely wrong.
I heard Snoop told the story a few times, but he had it wrong a little bit. He had said that Pac snitched him, and nobody was really there. Yeah, we had a great convo.
This raises the question, why would Snoop make up a story about Pac in the first place? It turns out there was some tension brewing between Snoop and Tupac before Pac's death. After Tupac released the brutal diss track Hit 'Em Up, their friendship took a hit, especially since Snoop continued to hang out with Biggie and Puffy from Bad Boy Records, Pac's biggest rivals at the time. Things really came to a head when they were all in New York for the 1996 MTV Video Music Awards. Not only did Snoop bail on a planned rehearsal and a Saturday Night Live recording with Pac, but he also went on New York radio stations saying he had nothing but love for Biggie and Puffy. According to Napoleon, this was like a massive betrayal to Pac, who who'd just been in the studio recording fresh disses aimed squarely at Biggie and Puffy with Snoop by his side. The fallout between Snoop and Pac grew even more tense. Snoop has since talked about how uncomfortable he felt on the flight back to LA, admitting he feared for his life as he sat next to a visibly distant and cold Tupac. Just days later, Pac was fatally shot in Vegas, and that tension was never resolved. In a later interview, Snoop recounted those last moments with Pac on the plane, reflecting on the icy vibe between them, knowing they never got the chance to set things right before it was too late.
Having conversations and doing all kinds of things, saying nothing to me. Pac, you going to Vegas to the fight? I said,
According to Suge Knight, there was even more friction building between Tupac and Snoop, which only made their relationship fall apart even faster.
But like Pac and Snoop at the end hated each other. And you could tell that by the simple fact that when Snoop did Dogfather, Pac was not on that one song. Pac didn't like Dre. That would change the Death Row camp because of the jealousy of Tupac. Because Tupac was all of a sudden now, he's this major star, he getting all the light, he getting all the attention.
And it's wild, because not too long ago, Snoop actually admitted on Big Boy TV that he wasn't really a fan of Tupac's diss tracks, adding a whole new twist to their already messy history. Napoleon and Reggie Wright Jr. were totally stunned by Snoop's admission, calling it out as yet another one of Snoop's fabrications.
He was expressing his love for Hit 'Em Up. He was in the studio bopping his head. He was on the stage when Pac was performing it, singing the lyrics with him at the House of Blues.
Snoop's a motherfucking lie. Look at him on the stage at the House of Blues. Look at him!
Now, when it comes to Snoop's supposed friendship with Biggie, things don't get any less complicated. Snoop has always said he and Biggie were on good terms, claiming there was respect between them. But Gene Deal, Diddy's former bodyguard, has a different story. In a tell-all interview on the Art of Dialogue podcast, Deal shared that Biggie didn't like Snoop and didn't respect him at all. He even went as far as questioning why. If Snoop was really tight with both Biggie and Pac, that bond wasn't obvious when they were alive. Deal suggested that Snoop's tales about being the peacemaker and friend to everyone might be more about maintaining a public image than anything real. He also called Snoop out for claiming there was so much love with Biggie, yet questioning, wasn't Big out in California 3-4 weeks and Snoop never saw him? Snoop never came and smoked anything with him, never came and ate with him. But there was a lot of love. Come on, man.
When you be seeing these interviews with Snoop speaking on Biggie, how does that make you feel?
That's propaganda for the media, bruh. That's something that sounds good for the media. Pac asked you was going to Vegas and the whole 9 yards, and he didn't say nothing to you, or he said some slick to you, or whatever, this, that, and the third. It wasn't all that love until Pac was dead.
Since Biggie's death in 1997, Snoop's talked a lot about the respect he supposedly had for the Brooklyn legend. In 2018, he even shared a heartfelt story on the Rap Radar podcast about a talk he had with Biggie after Tupac's death. This chat supposedly happened after a shooting incident while filming Thad Dog Pound's NY New York video in Brooklyn. Snoop said they initially thought Biggie had something to do with it, but with the East Coast versus West Coast rivalry in full swing, they decided not to retaliate. After Pac's death, Snoop claimed he ran into Biggie in Atlanta, and they hashed things out face to face. According to Snoop, Biggie confessed he never wanted Pac to die, admitted he'd messed up in some ways, and apologized like a man. They supposedly squashed the beef and found some mutual respect. But here's the kicker. When Gene Deal was asked if that meeting in Atlanta ever happened, he said he couldn't confirm it because he wasn't there, though he couldn't help raising an eyebrow over the whole thing. To him, it didn't add up that Snoop would say he met with Biggie in Atlanta but never saw him when Biggie was right in his own backyard in LA. Deal questioned how Snoop could supposedly stroll up to Biggie's hotel in Atlanta, solo and gangsta, but not catch up with him in California. So you can go see him on the East Coast, but not in your own hometown? Alright then, Deal remarked, clearly doubting Snoop's version of events. After Biggie's MDR and with Suge Knight behind bars, Snoop was ready to leave Death Row Records for good. He was over the non-stop drama and wanted out of the whole East Coast-West Coast beef, especially since his friendship with Puff Daddy had Suge boiling mad. Snoop tried to talk it out with Suge, but things only got uglier. Suge had even publicly dissed Puffy at the Source Awards for being all over his artist's music videos, which was ironic since Snoop ended up doing a lot of the same later on. Their relationship had soured so badly that rumors started swirling that Suge actually wanted Snoop dead. The tension was so intense that Master P, head of No Limit Records, had to step in and pay a hefty fee to free Snoop from his death row contract. After all that, Suge took it a step further by hinting that Snoop was a snitch. Word on the street was that in 1998, Snoop had told the cops he was in serious danger after leaving death row, and a memo from the LA County Sheriff's Department supposedly mentioned Snoop telling a lieutenant that Suge was behind Tupac's murder. Nothing ever came from that memo though, and no charges were filed.
He tried to accuse and told the sheriff that Suge Knight was the one that killed Tupac. It's in the police report.
Years later, that snitch talk resurfaced when rapper 6ix9ine Inie stirred the pot, referencing those old documents and throwing shade, saying Snoop might have been working with the police. Snoop didn't hold back. He shot back saying, "People know I ain't have nothing to do with Suge Knight getting time. We had the same lawyers. This rat's just reaching calling me a snitch. And for the record, he probably drew up the papers himself. He works with the police. Suge and I are on great terms now, so if I had snitched on him, we wouldn't be cool. And that's a fact." But Snoop has always had a knack for making headlines with some pretty wild stories. Like the time he claimed he helped the director of Training Day film in a Bloods neighborhood without a hitch. According to Snoop, he'd ordered a blue tracksuit for the movie. But once on set, he noticed it was a Bloods-dominated area, so he supposedly went to talk to the local OG, who just happened to show up in a wheelchair like the one Snoop used in the film. Snoop claimed he made peace by buying $300 worth of weed from the guy, which kept everything calm and let filming go on without a problem. Turns out, though, the real story was nothing like that. It later came out that Snoop hadn't done anything to ease tensions. In fact, the Bloods had actually pelted his trailer with bottles, and he ended up hiding inside, terrified, while someone else had to step in to settle things down. Spice One, a gangster rap legend, recently shared the real version in an interview with The Art of Dialogue, recalling how a group of Bloods, known rivals to the Crips, were harassing Snoop on set during the filming of the 2001 movie. Spice One said he got word from his OG Crip homie about some gang members throwing bottles at Snoop's trailer on set. So naturally, he headed over to see what was up. He remembered, "I'm out in LA and my OG Crip homie hit me up. He was like, 'Spice, they're at Snoop's trailer. There are some Blood guys over there throwing bottles at his trailer,'" he recalled. He didn't say Blood guys because, you know, he's not going to say that, but that's what he meant. So Spice goes, "I was like, oh." So in so many words, he told me to go over there and try to calm them down. They'll listen to you. And I'm thinking in the back of my head, man, they don't know me. Why would they listen to me? But since the OG told me to go, I went. When Spice One finally rolled up on the Training Day set, just showing up seemed to be enough to chill the whole situation out. So I go over there. They see me, and they're like, "Damn, Blood, that looks like Spice One, Blood," he continued. I'm like, "It is me. Y'all got any weed? What's happening?" I told them, "Man, they're saying y'all were throwing bottles at Snoop's trailer and stuff. They're about to call the police. We need to get out of here before they come." And they were like, "Okay, cool, let's bounce. Nobody wants to deal with the police anyway." So we bounced, walked around the corner, and started smoking some weed while waiting for the cops to show up. They drove through, looked around, and left. I dapped up the guys, then went to Snoop's trailer and hung out with him for a bit, smoking some weed or whatever. I don't think he even knew what I was there for.
You know, I see him and they look at me and he like, "Damn, Blood." He like, "That look like Spice One, Blood." And I was like, "It is me." They saying y'all was throwing bottles at Snoop trailer and shit, man. The motherfucker was about to call the police. We need to get the out of here. You know, they was like, "Okay, cool, let's bounce the up out." You know, and they ain't trying to see the Opos anyway. So.
And honestly, the whole commercial move just backfired completely. Using it to sell a beer brand just ended up defeating the whole point of the message, making it seem like he was trying to make a profit off the struggles and tragedies of gang violence rather than actually addressing the serious issues.
Hold up, man. Before you shoot me, man, can you remind me why we each other?
Sorry about Snoop. Man, I carjacked your grandma, tied her hands behind her back. And then your granddaddy.
This, understandably, didn't sit well with a lot of people, especially some from the Bloods. And they didn't just let it slide either. They showed him exactly how they felt about his little stunt with a very real response. Snoop Dogg's Funko Pop store in Inglewood got straight up vandalized by the Bloods. So here's the story. Last January, Snoop opened this store called The Doghouse after announcing a partnership with Funko Pop, where he was all set to sell Funko Pop and gold figurines inspired by his career and life. Before the big launch, Snoop was beyond hyped, saying things like, "This new store stays true to who I am as an entrepreneur and rapper," and "I can't wait for my fans to experience, touch, and feel it. Once you see it, it's like nothing else in the world. That doghouse will blow your mind." And yeah, at first things were going pretty well. Fans were excited, the store was buzzing, and there was this big mural of Snoop on the outside, wearing one of his classic all-blue outfits as a nod to his Crip affiliation. But just a few months in, the store was hit by vandals who made it clear they weren't happy. They spray-painted over Snoop's blue outfit with red, the Bloods color, and covered the mural with anti-Crip tags, including CK, which stands for Crips K-er, as if to drive home their message loud and clear that they weren't impressed with his so-called peace effort that ended up feeling more like a publicity stunt. Snoop Dogg's reputation is one of those things that will always have people talking and analyzing every little part of his life, and honestly, it's not likely to change anytime soon, especially since his career will always be shadowed by those lingering allegations about his possible involvement in Tupac's death, which no one seems able to let go of. Plus, his whole gangsta image, which so many people love to doubt and call fake, will likely continue to be debated endlessly since, let's face it, some folks will just never take him seriously. So, with all of that in mind, what do you think the future holds for Snoop? Don't forget to drop us a comment with your thoughts, and if you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching!